The Museum of Teaching and Learning welcomes you to the premiere episode of our series, Teaching in Times of COVID, stories dedicated to the experiences of educators in public, private, and home teaching settings. I'm Denise Steedman, your host. Today we're joined by Elizabeth, who is an assistant high school principal of instruction and operations in Orange County. Elizabeth, welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Would you tell us about your journey as an educator and how teaching led you to your current position?
Sure, my pleasure. So I had the benefit of growing up and watching my mom teach, throughout my early years. And her classroom was a unique classroom, and she served students with significant disabilities. So I would spend time at lunch break or after school in her classroom helping her decorate and get ready for her to serve her students. So watching her in action really instilled a love for teaching and helping others, and really making it a priority to teach and serve all learners. So in college, I went down the path of becoming a teacher. I was able to obtain jobs as instructional aides and substitute teachers that helped pay for college throughout the years. So after I graduated, that is the path that I chose, and I was so thankful to be in the profession of teaching. And I was a special education teacher for students with moderate to severe disabilities, and I started here in Southern California.
Now, a lot of us are not aware of what an assistant principal does. What are your duties? What is your average day like?
Yeah, that's a great question. Every day is different, and that's what I think I love about the job. So overall, my mission and vision is to truly serve and help support our teachers so then they can impact their students effortlessly and knowing that they have the support of the administration in their classroom. So what that actually looks like is a variety of different things that happen during the day. So I do start the day outside of the front of our school, welcoming our students in. Right now, due to our current environment, we're monitoring for health and safety and looking at symptom checkers, and we do have temperature. We check their temperatures and make sure that they have their masks on. So there's a few of those safety procedures, as well as welcoming them, that we ensure all students are ready for school. Throughout the day, I offer support for maybe it's technical issues that teachers are having, or they need help with family dynamics. So a lot of it is problem solving, making sure that the teachers have the tools they need for instruction, and being able to be ready and prepared in the classroom. So in addition, I'm in charge of our facilities and operations, so making sure that our campus is safe and clean and ready for our learners.
So your students are back at school.
Yes. Right now, the students, so I'm at a high school, a local high school here in Orange County, and our students are back, but on a hybrid platform. So what that means is there are 3 groups of our students. There's one group that comes on Mondays and Thursdays, and another group that comes on Tuesdays and Fridays. So those are the in-person groups, and then there's also a group that stays at home all the time. So amongst the 3 groups at any given time, we have about 25% of the students on campus, so it is a reduced number, which does help with the safety protocols and the measures we have in place. But, oh man, it is fantastic seeing the students back on campus, having their energy down the hallways, just being able to enjoy their peer relationships as well as being in the classroom is absolutely fantastic. So we're very thankful to be welcoming them back.
So let's move the calendar back a little bit. March of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
You find out that the schools are going to be closed. What a shock to the system. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how that rolled out, how you received that, how what changes were made immediately?
Yeah, no, good question. So, when I look back at that time, of course, there was a lot of confusion and stress and anxiety, not only at the school level, but within our community and nationwide. And that was a true opportunity for us to remember that being called to be a leader and serving others, requires us to be calm and confident, and to provide a place of security for our students and our staff during a time of crisis. So the way that rolled out was the Onsite administration was in constant communication with our district office, who as well was being advised by our California Department of Public Health, our county superintendent's office. So, just multiple phone calls, making sure that we're in concert together. So what we did do was we ended up, understanding that we were going to have to go on a lockdown. I believe we're right around March 13th, give or take. And so we called an emergency staff meeting, and got the staff together in a large area. And discussed our current situation and our next steps in our plan. So we wanted our staff to know before the parents and students. Right after that meeting, then we informed all stakeholders, including students and parents, about the next steps with our plan. We were fortunate at our high school because we had technology devices in every student's hands already. So thankfully, the students had the tools to keep learning continuous, and that was a priority that our superintendent never gave up, was that learning was not going to pause. So that was a priority early on from day one, and the expectation for the students and the parents and the teachers knew that the students deserved an education and that we didn't want to take a break from that. So we're very fortunate to have some of those key elements in place to make the transition smoother.
Mm-hmm. And how long did that take to notify the parents and get this up and running?
Yeah. So it honestly took just a couple of hours. We held an emergency staff meeting. That took about 30 minutes. Right after that, we had people drafting letters. The letter was, consistent throughout the district, making sure that we were all on the same page. Then that was instantly sent out to students and parents as well. And then the plan for the continuous online instruction was delivered to both the teachers and the parents at the same time, and informing them that student learning is a priority. So working out, of course, the nuances, that did take some more time. And we, began to grow and acquire new technology that helps us, to have better practices even today. So,
may I ask, how many students do you have at your high school?
Yes. So the high school that I serve has about 1,700 students right now.
So a large high school.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yes.
a lot of households to
yes.
notify and get that up and running.
Yes.
How did the parents react to this?
Yes, so parents were very understanding, and they definitely supported the closure right away. The difficult part was understanding that learning was still a priority and that we were going to continue to have the expectations of student learning. That wasn't consistent across all districts in our county. So that was a point of confusion for parents, where maybe a younger child in a different district didn't have the same expectations that we were having. So that required us to continue to deliver the narrative and inform parents and students that you do need to go on to your Chromebook. There is work waiting for you, and we have instruction, available through the virtual platform. So that did take a bit of adjusting too. Mm-hmm.
And for the instructors,
mm-hmm.
your teachers, did you feel that they were able to move quickly into the technology? Had this been something that they've been using all along?
Yeah, good question. So we rolled out the one-on-one devices about 4 years prior to the lockdown. So that really, by the time that we went into lockdown, all teachers were using the Chromebooks, their Chromebook devices. They knew how to set up, Google Classrooms and deliver instruction even at the most basic level through the device. Now, of course, as we progress and we're a year into this, the technology and the learning curve has been absolutely tremendous. So that we continue to walk alongside the teachers, but we're so thankful that we've also had 4 years prior of a lot of teacher training, teacher camps, lots of different professional development opportunities, so that teachers could have a variety of educational technology tools and understand how to implement them effectively to engage their learners. But there's still a steep learning curve, and some thrive, and others need some more hand-holding, and that's okay.
Since your teachers were trained, essentially, without anticipating a global pandemic, so what you're saying is that your administration, your principal in the district, were able to just fill in those spots and have them adjust to your needs. When the parents and the children, when they had tech problems, if they weren't able to log on, how was that addressed?
Yeah.
How would you communicate with them, and do you have hours, that kind of thing, that they can call and, hey, I have this problem, can you help me?
Yeah. So right away, that was probably the most difficult barrier, because we were operating under, a strict lockdown. So then we would have to think, oh my, if they have a technology issue, what would that look like for them coming to school? And what if something happened on their way to school? Are we responsible or liable for that? So that was the most difficult barrier in the first couple of weeks. But then, through communication, like you said, with our administration team and the superintendent, that we really had to prioritize and keep our vision on student learning was at the utmost importance. So we were able to make accommodations through safe work hours, no-touch deliveries, and just kind of swap out their Chromebook or their device through no-touch delivery systems. If students or parents felt uncomfortable coming to the school during that initial lockdown, then we would provide it to their house with a no-touch delivery and kind of swap it out in a safe method through that. So we were able to quickly rectify that and problem solve. The biggest change was initially our students were operating under an asynchronous learning environment, as I believe most schools were. And what that means is that the students were required to log on, and they would take attendance with a teacher kind of quickly, and then they would go through their work. But there wasn't that live face-to-face instruction happening consistently through all classes. And this is during that initial early March 2020 time. And so that was an area that we saw that needed some growth and development. So throughout the months, we were able to acquire large cameras as well as accounts through Zoom. So it was rather quickly that then we pivoted and we went towards a requirement and an expectation that teachers would be online having a live synchronous lesson via Zoom or Google Meets, and that they would be providing that high quality instruction to the students. So that was the major pivot that we saw with technology, and really trying to keep that focus on the student learning as a priority.
Maybe you can tell us what the attendance was like before you did the Zoom meetings, so it was a live classroom experience for the students. Was it easier for them to log on and see that instructor in front of them, kind of a, not quite in the classroom, but a classroom?
Yes, yeah. No, you're right. Attendance definitely does increase when we have that, we're trying to replicate more of that face-to-face environment. Right, so whether it's through Zoom or we're now back in that hybrid platform, that helps build the communities that are necessary for the students to feel, engaged and important and valued in the classroom.
And what are the average sizes of those classes? An instructor would normally in the classroom have, 20 to 30 students during a high school period teaching time. So what was the size of an online class?
So they were all the same. So the classes and the class schedules, everything stayed the same. So as we were planning for the upcoming year, then we put the kids in the classes as if they would typically be in a class. And now at the high school level, there's a variety of different pathways and opportunities, and there's CTE programs and our international baccalaureate programs, agricultural science, and engineering pathways. And so there's so many different programs that are available that we wanted our students to still have the opportunities for. So their schedules maintained continuity as if the pandemic didn't exist. They were able to choose from the electives and the pathways as they normally would. And then we were able to provide these high-tech cameras that were in the classroom. So the teacher would be in an empty classroom and being able to live stream their lesson, and the students who are in hybrid are there watching the teacher, and the students who are at home, because it's not their hybrid day or they choose to stay at home, just due to the safety measures, then they get to participate and see it in a virtual platform. So that provided the experiences that students were used to having at the high school and the opportunities in the classes that they were expecting. So we did not change our course offerings, but rather just change the technology and the delivery platform for our students.
And that came after the initial shutdown.
Yes.
So everything was just uploaded online for them to go through their class experience on their own. And then as you evolved and created a hybrid experience for the school and the students, the cameras were included at that time.
Yes.
So that would have been fall of last year?
Correct, yes, fall of last year. Now, during the initial lockdown, it was the expectation that the student would be going to class, and most of them did it via Zoom also, so we had Zoom available right away. So they were, the expectation right away was that they were to be in class during the school hours, but the learning took place in a more like asynchronous platform where possibly in English, they would be writing an essay and, not online the whole time. So the change really happened when we were able to have that camera in the classroom where the teacher could walk around the classroom and still be streamed in all areas. So right away, yes, the students were online, and that was the expectation throughout the school day. But we understood that a lot of the learning activities had to take place sort of outside in a more asynchronous platform and getting back in contact with the teachers. So it did feel like there was more normalcy once fall came and we were able to have the cameras in the classroom.
If I can have you go back to last summer, I have a couple of questions. Did you offer a summer school experience online for your students?
We did, yes. There was a summer school opportunity, and that was mainly for students to recover or recoup missing credits and units to help them graduate on time. So it's not an opportunity for students to advance and to try to do more, but rather to meet the needs of the students who need that for their high school diploma. In addition, we offered a kind of like a reading boot camp, and that was for students who might have been experiencing some learning loss from the middle school who were articulating into the ninth graders, so to give them some extra steps before high school started. And that was virtual, and that was offered for 6 weeks.
As an administrator, it must have been around that time that you had gotten together with your principal and the district to decide how to handle the new fall schedule, the new fall experience for the teachers. How was that determined? How did you decide, okay, we're going to go another semester and we'll take a look at it during the Christmas break? Or did you just know that the entire school year, 2020-21, would be virtual?
Yeah, good question. No, we definitely did not know that we would still be in this current situation. But during the summer, the most important part, and the thing that I'm really proud about, is that our district had a priority to increase communication lines amongst all of our stakeholders. So we had a variety of different subgroups. We had a health and safety subgroup, we had a communication subgroup, we had an instruction subgroup, and mental health subgroup. And throughout these little groups or committees, we invited administration, teachers, our classified employees, parents, students, grandparents, business owners. So as many stakeholders as we could from a variety of different schools within our district. And we wanted everybody to be a part of these kind of think tank teams, targeting and focusing on different important issues that were currently impacting our students. So the idea was to really help understand how we can best communicate, how we can best plan for safety, how we can best plan for instruction during this time, as well as our mental health for our students. And throughout that process, what happened during the summer was we were able to develop a variety of plans to help us be able to make the necessary adjustments given whatever the new situation was going to be. So it allowed flexibility. Our goal was always to bring students back on campus when we are allowed to, when it was safe. We know that students being together face-to-face is what's best for them under typical circumstances. So once it was safe, we wanted to be ready to go. We didn't want to wait. So the planning over the summer really helped us get back to and make sure that the students were engaged with cameras on during that 8 to 3 time period during their classroom, their instruction time. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a fabulous, inclusive, comprehensive idea to get everyone involved, including businesses, which are affected by your high school, and the parents, working parents, non-working parents, grandparents. I think that's great because there may be some extended family members who are guardians or in charge of the children's education, maybe when the parents are working as such, so that's super.
Yeah.
How about sports? Let's talk about that. I know that it's changed recently.
Yes.
But let's go back to last year, and obviously it had a huge impact on your sports program.
Yes.
So how was that handled? What did your coaches have to do to adjust, and the students?
Yes. Well, sports has always been a very difficult thing to navigate recently with the pandemic. But right away during the initial lockdown, and if my memory serves me correctly, we had to pause all of our sports and athletics due to the stay-at-home orders. And in addition, then we had to really understand and work with legal to understand what the impact or a requirement was of maybe a coach that said, hey, for fun, for some physical fitness, I want you guys to, do A, B, and C and have a workout. So we had to understand what that direction, what our coaches were allowed to give maybe as homework for them to work out, and make sure that they were safe, and that, if something happened to them at home, is there an adult nearby that can help them seek medical attention? So we had to work through a lot of that at the beginning as well as in the summer. And really our programs were just put on a major hold, a big holding pattern. So as things now have slowly started to open up with our hybrid programs, during hybrid we would, once it was safe and the California Department of Public Health was able to give us the green light, then we opened up outdoor practices for our students. Now they would have to have their masks, and they had taken their symptoms checker as well as taking their temperature before coming on campus. But all of that was done safely, and they were able to practice outdoors. And these were non-contact practices, so maybe just jogging around and individual drills, a lot of individual activities. But as things have began to progress this week in particular, there are some dramatic changes. So So we now have learned that that the state of California, we are allowed to start competition, and that began this past week. And we are closely, we're kind of going back to what we did almost a year ago, where we get new guidelines and instructions at the state level. And together, we quickly come together as a site and as well as the whole district, all the principals and athletic directors, and we digest the document and understand how are we going to implement these guidelines and these strategies so our students can participate in a safe manner. So they're changing very quickly. So we got some new updates on Thursday for opening up possibly indoor sports and what that will look like and the safety measures and protocols we'll need to implement for indoor sports. Mm-hmm. So we're thankful to have the guidelines from the state of California, but we are kind of back in that, okay, let's all get together and quickly digest this and communicate as quickly as we can and as appropriately as we can to our parents and our constituents about the next steps. So we're looking forward to seeing our students competing and enjoying physical competition once again. But yes.
my first thoughts are, if you're playing football in the spring, which is usually a fall sport, along with basketball as it goes around the sports calendar, how are you integrating all of these sports at once? Or are you not?
So that's part of the conversation. And we're lucky that we are a part of CIF, which is a governing board for our local area. And they do provide us with some of those guidelines. You're right, typically students are able to participate in multiple sports. But right now with the truncated seasons, some can because it will work out that way, but others just will not be able to participate in everything. And then they also have to be careful about not crossing over teams. So if you're practicing with one team, to make sure, see what the guidelines say about them practicing with another team, because we want to ensure that we are monitoring and tracking their movements and who they're interacting with, because if there is a student who tests positive, then we need to make sure that everybody that was in close contact is quarantined for the appropriate amount of time.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how the testing works at a high school. Do you do any testing there on campus, or
Yes.
is this brought to you by a student or a family?
Yes.
To say, hey, I think I've been exposed, I've been tested, and now I'm positive or negative.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Good question. So that is changing as well. Typically, what we had done all school year was all the staff was tested on a very regular basis. And so we ensured that our staff was safe and would follow those protocols. And then we would be taking any phone calls from parents, letters about possible exposures or, students testing positive. And then we would be advising based upon the information that was provided to us. But now for sports and competitions, we are required to test students before they compete and to get those back in a timely manner. And then we are, we need to follow up on that and see who they were around with in close contact to, and that the other students would be impacted as well. So that is changing.
Yes, so
Yeah.
you're doing testing and following up
Yes.
with the tracing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look a little closer at home.
Mm-hmm.
We know that you have 2 boys and that your husband is an educator as well.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us how your family adjusted to all of this last March?
Yeah. No, thanks. So, before March 2020, it was a very busy time for our family, as I'm sure many families in Orange County, where we're sprinting around from soccer to baseball to swimming and squeezing in church, and so we were very busy and on the go. And then once the pandemic hit and the lockdown started, it felt like we went from 100 to 0 and just hit the brakes and full stop. So there was times and moments of and of course I think every day I was full of gratitude for the health and safety of my own family and the time together, and also just being reflective of our lives and knowing and kind of getting back to what's important. So that was a great opportunity for our family to reconnect on a different level, without the busyness of what society brings. So we enjoyed, that time. We did. And as the months went on, we realized that we needed to rearrange our house and have some more desks and and workstations around. So out went an old spare bed, and in went some, a quick 6-foot portable table as a makeshift desk for for us. And we just kind of pivoted and made the adjustments that we needed to get by. Got some extra headphones, and off we went. So we definitely made it work. It's never easy, of course, when you're in a Zoom meeting and the dog's barking and the kids crying, and but we're really thankful for the opportunity to be together and refocus on some of those family values. Now, currently, since the school year, or even since the summer, I have been back to work on campus Monday through Friday. So my husband is there with the boys, and he's Zooming, and the boys are Zooming in for their instruction as well. And honestly, I'm very fortunate and thankful that my boys do get along. So that's been a tremendous blessing, that the majority of the time they're friends, and they don't have an issue sharing space. But I do empathize with parents I speak to a lot of parents during the day, and they have a hard time. They have requirements, and they have to go to work, to get food on the table. And their student is at home, which is age appropriate, and the student is responsible and required to log on to the classes and complete their work. But without an adult there right next to you, or somebody in the house giving you those prompts of, this is the next expectation, it is all too tempting to toggle off your work and open up a new screen and maybe go on YouTube, or just shut down your Chromebook. And so this is the conversation that I'm hearing, amongst our community, and it is very difficult to maintain, to keep that motivation, and to make sure that the students are learning, even if they're, home alone. So, yeah.
Do you think that will have an impact on testing, on future placement?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think some students might fall behind?
Absolutely.
It sounds like you have great resources
Yeah.
available on campus
Mm-hmm.
and through the district. How might that be addressed in the future?
No, absolutely. And I'll be interested to see, like you said, how this impacts, a variety of students and learners. We do see that, some students are able to log on and, get the work done, and others have, a more difficult time. So we have to be mindful of what do those home environments look like for each student. What is their access to reliable internet? We've tried to mitigate that by offering free hotspots to students who express any need. But regardless of providing a hotspot, there's a lot of inequities when you look at a home environment and having the same expectations. So we are working together to take a very student-centered approach and make sure that we understand the whole child, when we're moving forward in education. But we are going to see the lasting impacts of this learning loss that has taken place during this time. So it's real. I think it's going to impact all students. However, I think particular students are going to have more opportunity gaps. This is creating a significant gap in their life that can lead to some opportunity gaps in their future. So we're going to have to work diligently to target and focus and help bring up the capacity of all learners once we get them all back to campus.
I'd like to ask you two final questions.
Mm-hmm.
You just talked about how this is impacting the students, how they may be affected, maybe lose a little bit here and there, and I assume that your staff will be on the lookout for that, and that resources will be offered for these students to catch up a little bit. Let's talk about education broadly. Do you think that this will have a permanent impact in a high school education for the students and the teachers? Do you think there'll be more online teaching, for example? How will this look in the future? Will this always be in the back of your mind?
Yeah.
What if the next something happens?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, I do think that it will change the bigger picture, the field of education for the long haul. And parts of that is, sure, there are some benefits of it. Now we know how to use Zoom all too well, and we know how to, kind of create some more flexible lessons and use technology more effectively in the classroom. But I think the bigger picture is really looking at that significant learning loss for a generation and the impacts that will have for our entire society. So I do think that we will grow as the field of education, that we now have some more tools under our belts. And I think we will develop more, that we'll continue to learn more about the social emotional learning and the impacts that this has caused on our students and the importance of that. I think we'll also start to understand the impacts of being in person, seeing people face to face versus learning online, and how that does or does not, help student achievement. But I think I'm very interested to learn more about what this is going to look like. So we're trying to take those proactive approaches, and I think as the years come, we will have a much better understanding of the impacts and how we can help mitigate this learning loss and help our students throughout this process. But yes, I think this is a huge change for education, and we will definitely be re-looking at our safety plans to include a variety of issues. And now that we have this, hopefully we're at the tail end and we're saying goodbye to the pandemic, but we will definitely be readjusting and making sure that we are more proactive in the future for such a situation.
And here's another personal question. May we ask you, what are you most proud of?
Good question. The thing that I am most proud of would be twofold, and it would definitely be, of course, having the support and the love of my family, and remembering, that part of my foundation is my family life, and the support of my husband and my two boys has just been tremendous. But I'm also most proud of the fact that together as a district, we have been able to be calm and optimistic, and to truly increase communication throughout all stakeholders. So I think that is something that we have definitely grown tremendously in, that all issues have been very well communicated through teachers and staff members, parents, students, business owners. So that has been something that I've been tremendously proud of. Throughout all of these circumstances, trying to stay positive and calm, and to, lead with grace and love for our students is part of the vision of our district, and I guess of my own, that I am most proud of, and that I know will continue to be a focus and a priority in the future.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
Thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Please visit our website, www.modal.org. That's MOTAL.org, to learn more about our exhibits, events, artifact collection, and more. Also, find us on Modal's YouTube channel, Facebook, and Instagram. Museum of Teaching and Learning. We educate people about education.
Teaching in the Times of COVID is brought to you by the Museum of Teaching and Learning, and is the sole owner of its content.